Hello, I'm Captain Jack Sprengel with East Coast Charters here at On the Water, and we're going to demonstrate to you some of the more modern advancements to the FG knot and how we fish it today. The problem with the traditional FG or most knots, it creates a really sharp, stark, unstable transition. So you can literally end up with a 90-degree angle in your line. This new variation of the FG allows for a smoother, more pliable transition, and that reduces the amount of wear and tear right at the terminal connection between your leader and your main line. This knot needs some resistance, but you don't want this to be a super tight tension on the line while you're trying to tie it, because if you have too much tension, you won't be able to get the line to weave around itself. You want just enough tag here so that when you're tying the knot, you can put the end of your main line in your mouth and bite it like this. And then to create that standard weave that you're used to tying the knot with, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to lay the leader underneath the main line, okay? And you're going to go over the top and away toward the rod tip, and then bring that nice and close. And then you're going to come toward yourself, under and over. And you'll notice that those lined up nicely. Again, I'm going to go away, under, and over, and toward, under, and over. That was 2 pair, or 4 crisscrosses. We're going to do a total of 12 pair, or 24 alternated crisscrosses. I like counting 1 because it tells me where I am each time by doing them in pairs. So that was 2 pair. Now I'm going to do the rest of the 12 for a total of 10 more. Away, towards, away, towards. So that's 4 now. 5 pair, 6 pair, 7 pair, 8 pair, 9 pair, 10, 11, 12. And to anchor all of this, you lay your tag end of your leader material towards your rod tip, take your tag end of your main line, and laying it over the top of both, you're going to tie one single half hitch around both the main line and around the leader. So I'm using my teeth to put tension here. I'm putting my hand here on both the tag end of the leader and the main line, and I'm just going to walk that tight up against those series of crisscrosses I've tied. But you're going to actually pull very tightly now, and by pulling tight, you're actually going to change the color of this entire knot to a darker, almost more transparent look all the way down as far as you can get it to go. And by pulling it like that, it's going to bite into your leader and form a 100% line strength connection. I've actually cut an old rod butt, okay? So I just have a little bit of EVA around an old blank. And what I'll do here is I'll start wrapping the excess line around this. You'll notice I never lay it on itself, okay? You don't want to lay your line on here like this and then pull on your knot, because all this beautiful knot you just tied, you just weakened above the line by laying it over itself and pulling on it. You want to make sure that you're wrapping this excess material next to itself. So I wrap that as close as I can, and then I will wrap this either on a dowel. Usually leader material you can get away with wrapping on your hand. Again, you'll notice I do not put this anywhere other than next to itself. You're going to pull on this tag end and this end until this whole knot gets dark all the way down the knot. Okay? You'll notice this knot got dark. Notice it went from almost an opaque blue to a dark, clear, transparent style of blue. I'll now engage my reel to take up the slack. Go back to pressing my knee up against the back of it if I'm on a rock, or maybe back in the rod holder now. And I'll bite down on the tag end, and I'll seat it nice and tight up against itself. Okay, so now I have that nice clean looking series of crisscrosses that created the Chinese finger trap. Now if you remember, to seat that knot, the very first thing I did was go over the top and did a half hitch, all right? So now what I'm gonna do is go underneath, because I'm gonna alternate my half hitches, all right? I'm gonna do a total of 4. Notice that before I went over, now I'm going under Putting the tag end through, seating that, one over, one under. And I've done a total of 4 alternated there, okay? This is where your traditional FG a lot of times will cut this tag end and then proceed with the finish of the knot. I had 2 more for a total of 6. One more over, one more under. Again, this is your first deviation from this traditional FG. I seat them down nice and tight. I give it a pull. All along, I always pull in the direction that the leader is going to be pulled from the main line. And now you'll notice that by alternating my half hitches, instead of my knot spiraling around the shank of this entire knot, they've all walked out in a nice straight line, creating a smooth transition. They've almost increased the profile of the knot slightly there. Then what I do is, instead of cutting this at an angle, I create a far more secure stopping point for the overall strength of this knot. And to do that, I trim it. I want to have a little bit of working space, trim just above, maybe a 1/16 of an inch above the knot. Okay, and you'll notice now I have this conspicuous piece sticking out the end, okay? Now what I'm going to do is burn that. You want to wet your fingertips, all right? That's going to protect you from burning them. It also allows you to feel the heat. And you'll notice I'm using my fingernails or my fingertips to protect the terminal end of my knot. So at no point does any heat get exposed to my braided line. Then you want to burn, see this blue part on the bottom? That's what you want to work with. And you want to come in at the base of the flame and just keep kissing that tag end. Then flatten it down until you end up with this nice terminal point at the end of your leader material. And then I pull very tightly up against that, just like I was finishing my knot. And what you get there is an absolute terminal point. So now these hitches can never walk off the back of this knot. Now I'm going to do a series of alternated over and under half hitches. Now I'm going to do that series. One over. This very first one I'll walk down and I'll make sure I get behind the back side of that burr, okay? So that I don't have a bridge of leader going from my main line to the rest of this working finish, all right? That's nice and tight. That was over. Now I'm going to go under. Now I'm using one hand on the leader, one hand on the main line, and my teeth to walk this down, all right? One thing I would like to point out is while I'm finishing these strong, I'm not pulling on this by going over and then putting tension on it and pulling hard all the way down my line, because that's just going to essentially keep shaving the back side of your knot. I easily bring them down and then seat them, all right? Under. Another thing I'd like to point out right now is the counting part of this knot is over. And you may have a different diameter line. You might be using hollow core. You might be using standard Power Pro. This is Power Pro Hollow Ace. I'm just using to use an example because it's got a nice rounded profile here for you to see. And I'm going to keep alternating these half hitches just to double the size of the knot by eye. You don't have to sit here and count these out manually. Okay, so the counting part is over. And under. Over. Under. Over. Under. Again, walk them down, then seat them. And just like before, by alternating these half hitches, you end up with knots that are all in a beautiful row. You know, they're creating this larger transition point down the line. Over, under, over, under, over, under, and last set, over, under. Hopefully at this point you've left yourself a little bit more tag, or enough tag like I have. The traditional FG, again, when you got to the end of this, was nothing more than a double or a triple hitch. Problem with that is it would leave your tag end sticking out the back side of the knot like this. which puts a ton of wear and tear at that final secure point of your connection. So what we've done is integrated the Rizzuto Finish, okay? And the Rizzuto Finish can be as much as a 3-turn, up to a 6-turn, whatever you want to do. But you're going to go over the top of this main line, once like a half hitch, twice, 3 times. Now if I just pulled this tight, that would be a triple hitch. But what we're going to do is keep a finger on the back side of this loop, the terminal end over here, and we're going to slowly advance that toward the knot, keeping the loop open. And then instead of pulling on this tag end, we're actually going to unwrap the knot from the back. What that does is rewraps the front side of the knot, okay? So unwrap once, twice, 3 times, okay? And then I'm going to use my teeth to pull this tag end tight. What that just did is essentially whip finish the end of our knot. So now I have a jam style noose knot pushing against all those series of half hitches I did to transition the knot, and it buries the tag end back inside. So now it's less likely to get all that wear and tear right at that final connection point. One last trick I've learned to finish this that'll reduce a lot of the fray is to tie a simple overhand knot in this tag end before trimming it. Nothing fancy. Make a loop, put the tag end through the loop. There's your overhand. If I pulled it tight right here, it would be too far away. So what I'll do is I'll back this up almost over the knot itself while I advance it. And I finish it as close as you can to the knot itself. So now, after my series of 24 crisscrosses, or 12 pair, my 6 half hitches alternated, my burnt tag end, and then just doubling from the first seating hitch, the overall length of the knot, I did a Rizzuto Finish, 3-turn, and then an overhand knot close to the actual tag end. And then I trim this, and that's it. We've landed fish pushing 500 pounds with this terminal setup on spinning gear, so I trust this knot entirely. But one thing I will suggest to you, especially fishing a knot like the FG, get out and cast these knots. You want to be proficient with the concept and the feeling of this knot going through the guides long before you end up in a scenario where fish are exploding in front of you or when it matters.